There we go.
That's why I opened it.
Alright.
Is that our speakers?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a
Got
scan.
a mic and speaker.
You can see,
You know,
direction you want it.
I do,
being a
thank
dummy,
you. All right.
you know.
Alright. I call to order the Planning and Zoning Commission of Glen Rose, Texas on May 22nd at 5:31 PM. If we can all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, roll call. Larry Creminen,
Here.
William Green.
Here.
Greg Clanton.
Here.
Rex Miller.
Here.
Pam Streeter, here. So we have a quorum of 5-0. Perfect. We will, our consent agenda item is the meeting minutes for March 27th. As you'll remember, we canceled the April meeting, so there are no minutes for that meeting. So has everybody had a chance to review the minutes from the March 27th meeting? Are there any revisions that should be made? If there are no proposed changes, is there a motion for action to approve the minutes from the March 27th, 2024 planning and zoning meeting?
I made a motion.
All right, Larry motions, we'll say Rex seconded. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Larry 5-0. All right, we are now going to open the public hearings at 5:32 PM. I'd like to take the opportunity to remind everyone that this portion of the meeting is strictly for public comments. That means that it is for people who are not the applicants submitting. It would be anybody not directly related to the requests. There is no Q&A at this time. Anyone wishing to speak during this time is asked to give their name and address, and they will have 3 minutes to make statements or comments after each item has been announced. You'll have an opportunity to pose questions during the discussions and consideration portion of the meeting, and it is the consideration and discussion portion that we will hear from the actual applicants. Our first public hearing is regarding a request for a specific use permit for a short-term rental for the property located at 600 Southwest Bernard Street, acres 0.330, tract G9 through 13, abstract A47, James H. Haley, tract G9 through 13 to operate in an R1 single-family district as a short-term rental. Does anybody have any public comments on this item? All right, we'll move on to our next public hearing. This is regarding a special use permit for short-term rental for the guest house on the property located at 307 Walker, acres .157, tract F6-2, abstract A136, Milam County School, LT tract F62 to operate in an R1 single-family district. Is there any public comments on this item? Yes, ma'am.
I think it's 507 Walker, isn't it?
My document says 307, hang on.
Anyway, I live at 400 Jefferson, which is on the corner right by that property,
Okay,
and I'm really opposed to bed and breakfast being there,
okay, well,
or short-term rental, or whatever you want to call it.
okay, you need to come and speak, name, address, please, so we can have this on public record.
They are not here. My name is Sherry Luther. I live at 400 Jefferson Street here in Glen Rose. I have resided there since 1981. I worked real hard as a single mom to buy a house, which I did. I have been safe and secure. It's a very old neighborhood, very established, very quiet. Neighbors know each other. I'm opposed to short-term rentals for several reasons. One, I just don't like the idea of turning our neighborhood into a B&B street because there's plenty of bed and breakfasts and short-term rental places and hotels here. Two, I feel like it'll increase noise problems. It'll increase the risk of crimes going up and traffic. My main opposition is the fact that long-term rentals, most people do background checks and whatnot. So at least in the long-term rental, people have money in the game so far as to speak as they know they signed a lease, they're gonna have to pay this much money regardless. Most of the time, they're pretty well behaved. Most of the properties around my house are long-term rentals now. And if we okay one short-term rental, then they're all gonna turn into short-term rentals. And I really have worked hard. And I'm very sick and I live on disability. It's not like I could just up and move. Because I paid that place off, can't afford another mortgage. And I just don't feel like it's necessary to turn old neighborhoods into a profit-making thing for people that don't even live in Glenrose. And also, I asked them when they first bought the property, hey, y'all moving in? Because I'm kind of like the neighborhood greeter in my neighborhood. They told me, oh, this is just for when our family's down. And then I found out they told someone else it's going to be a bread and breakfast. Also, another concern is I thought there was a city ordinance to where you couldn't move manufactured homes and stuff like that into the city limits. So what they did is they moved a building, like a storage building, into the backyard and added a bathroom and a kitchen. And which one's going to be for rent, the house or the other thing that they put in? I think it'll be both of them because nobody lives in the other house. So that's two for on a very, very, very small lot. Is that allowed to have two residents on a very, very small lot?
We can't answer any questions for you right now.
I understand that. I'm just putting it out there
No, I
that,
appreciate that.
I'm really, really opposed to it.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Is there anybody else that has? Yes, Mr. Moore.
Here to speak up about the Walker Street
Okay,
B&B. I had a B&B on my street on Mission a couple of years ago. It's a very narrow street. I was for it. It was my neighbor. I was for it, but the problem was some of the people that would rent it didn't follow the rules. So it only has like 6 beds, but what happens? They bring in mattresses and then you end up having visitors come down for the weekend. And I was having to call. There's cars out in the street. My street's very narrow. So I think especially Walker is a street that might be not as conducive for that. You need to be very careful about where you're putting them.
Okay.
Because Mission, I know is one. I'll never be for another one on Mission. I can tell you right now. And I've been told my neighbor, the new owners from California, across the street from here, want to put in one, and I will be against it because our street's too narrow. It's hard enough to get an ambulance up Mission Street.
so just so I make sure I understand your concern. Your concern is about the street
The
parking.
Correct.
Okay,
There on Walker.
on Walker. Okay,
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that I got the right
Right.
function.
Okay.
Alright.
All right.
Anybody else like to speak on the Walker address? All right, we're going to move on to the next public hearing topic, which will be recommendations for board volunteers to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Do we have any public comments?
What are the requirements for that volunteer position?
Ma'am, I'm sorry, you have to come back. You can't, this is not a question and answer time. This is just you making comments.
Okay, where would I get the information for that then? Again, can't answer that?
This is not
Okay, thank you.
it's not a Q&A time. I'm sorry. All right. At this time, we will close the public hearings at 5:40 p.m. All right, so the individual items for consideration, we are going to discuss, consider, and possible action regarding the request for the specific use permit for short-term rental for the property located at 600 Southwest Bernard Street and all the hoopla related to that address.
The last comments were for 307, right?
Correct.
Okay. good.
No
Nobody
public comments
commented.
were on 600.
Right.
All right, Jody, can you take us through the mailings and,
Let's see, we had 15 owner letters representing 16 properties. We received 11 letters confirmed as received, 4 letters unconfirmed as received. 0 letters were returned, 5 responses were favorable. We had 1 in opposition.
right? Is the applicant present? Can you come speak and tell us what's your thoughts and motivations and whatnots?
I'm Jane Whitworth, and this is my daughter Melody Pena. And I bought the home on 600 Southwest Bernard 9 years ago. And when I bought that house, I was lucky to get that house. And I say that because it took 10 years to wait on that house, because I knew the people that had lived there. And I had decided, hey, I'm going to buy a house in Glen Rose. So I called the owner, who I knew the family, and I said, are you ready to sell that house? And she said, yes, but I have a question for you. Are you going to live there? And I said, oh, absolutely. Yes, I want to live in that house. So growing up in Glen Rose, we passed that house every day to go down to the old hospital where my dad was a doctor. And I remember seeing that little house, and I thought, oh, that would be a fun house. Of course, having 8 kids and a family, that's why I like that house. It would be just for a small family. But anyway, after I moved in, my daughter and son-in-law were really helpful as far as getting things ready. You know, it sat vacant for 25 years, and they came over and worked on it. We had some good days and we had some crazy days because we found that it had shiplap in it. So we were all excited about that. So now we're asking for a short-term rental because it's a great location. We've got plenty of parking. We can get 3 cars in the driveway. We probably won't be renting. I don't think we could rent it to more than 5 people at a time, like a family or, you know, a couple. And we are going to be going through a place that it's really safe because you can, the people have to pay. They're not going to be coming in for like a month. They're going to be coming in for 2 or 3 days or maybe a week. And I will still be living there, but when they come to rent it, I'll be gone. That'll give me income coming in, and that way I can go and visit my family who lives in Florida. Of course, Melody lives close by.
All right, so I just want to make sure I understand that. You're going to reside in the house, but when the house is being rented as a short-term rental, then you're going to vacate the property
Right.
and allow them to have the house.
Yes.
Okay, so, okay. I just wanted to make sure I had that one in my head.
Yes.
All right. Does anybody have questions? Yes, that house.
Cute house.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Okay, you guys know which one works? Visually on the map, it
Oh,
doesn't
I've
mean
got
anything.
pictures.
We're looking at the picture of it, so I remember which one it is.
Pictures, and it shows,
Yeah.
let me
Yeah.
step over here.
Yes,
Get there.
sure.
This. I'll just pass this where it's trying to see where the,
How many bedrooms?
2 bedrooms. This is one side, this is on the corner, shows how much. And then this is the other side showing the garage. And where you tell when you look at it.
Are those?
Yep.
I like this picture of it. It's on the corner, it shows the house. Oh, here's the garage, here's the driveway, and you can kind of see that's probably no pictures.
Yeah.
For parking.
Yeah.
Small house. Couldn't fit in many people. Okay, got it.
And I do have a chicken coop, and I've got 2 hens, because I don't like roosters, and I like eggs.
There you go. All right. Thank you. Questions? Concerns?
Nope, not really.
Discussions? Is somebody wanting to make a motion then?
How many was imposed and like,
One was in opposition,
And 4 were.
4 were in favor.
Yeah.
And I was out of 16 total properties submitted. So well under any.
I make the motion, we approve this.
I second it, whatever.
Great. Motion has been made and seconded to approve the proposed request for the specific use permit for 600 Southwest Bernard Street. All in favor? All right. Keep in mind that just because we have said we are moving this forward, it is still City Council who has the final say. So this will go before them at their next meeting. In which case, they make all final decisions and then, you will be notified. We recommend that you attend the city council meeting. Okay? All right, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding the request for specific use permit for the short-term rental for the guest house on property located at 307 Walker, acres .157, and all the other hollow below.
They are not here.
They are not here. Well, without them being present, we have a tendency to decide that we will not have a discussion on this. So therefore, we are not tabling it, we are no actioning this, correct? Okay. Does anybody have an objection to that?
Good.
You guys good? Okay.
Should I go and look into give people the response?
Very,
That's just instructed Jody to remind me to write an opinion when that comes back, if it comes back next month.
okay,
And that building doesn't have a foundation.
okay.
Also,
We might want to consider that.
would
So
it be,
there's a lot to consider on that one.
well, I would be,
particular.
do we have any statistics on, the objections always mention crime and noise. Do we have any on?
So we have researched all that.
Okay,
And that has not been proven true.
okay.
Now, as Mr. Moore has pointed out, there has been parking issues, but there hasn't been increased crimes. There hasn't been
Okay.
any calls to the police department about things of crime or noise complaints, et cetera, throughout the city. We have had that researched before.
Okay, thank you.
But with that said, there's other reasons for this to have a longer discussion than those.
Yep.
But since the property owner and applicant is not present, our standard action has been no action on this item and they have to come back later if they so choose.
Yeah, I told them they needed to be at the meeting
Yep.
when they
All right,
came in last.
so just to clarify your questions that you were asking earlier. Because the applicant is not present, this does not move forward. It does not go to city council, or does it go to city council?
I don't think so.
I'll
You haven't done any
talk
action.
to, I'll talk to Stacy.
Well, sometimes that's just where it's been confused, that when we take no action, they still take action, but in our opinion, it shouldn't.
No, I'll let her know that they didn't attend.
Okay. All right,
I can let you know.
okay. let us know. So at this point, there is, they would have to come back and reapply for the specific use permit, to be able to have a discussion about it.
And we'll be informed.
You would be informed again, okay? All right. Discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding the recommendation of board volunteers to the Planning and Zoning Commission. I'm gonna go ahead and jump to your question that you were trying to ask earlier. So a nomination form is put out by the city, and anybody that resides within the county is eligible to apply to volunteer to any of the board positions that are open. It then goes through a discussion amongst the Planning and Zoning Commission boards to make a recommendation of who we'd like to see take the empty seats that are coming up. And then it goes to City Council, and City Council makes the final decision. As for criteria, there isn't necessarily any criteria other than residential. However, in the process of discussing who's the best candidates, everybody looks at it from a different perspective. So anybody is eligible to apply as long as you are a resident. From there, we all too tend to look at what is that person gonna bring to the commission. And that's only true of the P and Z. There are circumstances of things that to be on preservation, you have to have some background and ownership of historic, correct? Yes, maybe, I don't know. Anyways, I don't have that knowledge.
They want at least one board member that owns property in the historic district.
There you go. Thank you, Dennis. I knew somebody knew it.
Or common sense.
Common sense is usually the key criteria that we all try for. All right, so with that
Our
said,
city council.
I know that we have got applicants. I just wanna move us forward. All right, so we have 2 open seats that are coming due. That is, or they actually have
2.
the timing seems wrong, but okay. We were late to the game. Got it. So the seat that is being held by Rex Miller, that was a fill-in, correct, for Joe Bowles. So he was finishing the Joe Bowles term, and then Mr. Clanton. And both of these candidates have submitted to reapply for the commission, but we also have 2 other candidates that we would all like to hear from. Does anybody have a favor of which order? Do you want to hear Rex and Greg first? Or do we want to hear Julia and Jeremy?
At their pleasure.
Well, I'm gonna just go in alphabetical order then. So we'll go by Greg Clanton, because you're both first and last, alphabetically first.
I guess that solves that problem. No, I'll just say that I've had a really good tenure here in the last couple of years serving on the P&Z board. I'd be happy to continue with the blessing of this committee here. We've done a lot of work, a lot of late nights, especially that first year. And I'd like to see that to start to bear fruit and watch the fruits of our labor come into fruition as we move forward and grow the town in a way that's conducive and beneficial to all of our residents here. So I'm happy to serve, and I'm happy to continue to serve with.
Can you give a little bit of your, just for the sake of the entire audience, and also for the fact that I have to write our recommendations,
yeah.
Can you give a little of your background?
Yeah, so I work in retail site selection, and I have for the last few years selecting new sites for Wendy's. So I do have a unique perspective when it comes to the retail world and how we go about doing business on that side of the table. And I have, gone in front of the city councils and things to talk about what we'll do for the community and how that goes into effect. And so it's I know there's a lot of animosity once you see some of the chains come in. So I do know that the behind the curtains look into some of that retail site selection and how they go about their business and how they do things. I am somewhat pro growth, but I want it to be the right growth. I don't want it to be at the detriment to the community, either aesthetically or when it comes to traffic or quality of life. So those are my goals, and I think what I bring to the committee. And like I said, I'd be happy to serve another 2 years if I'm recommended.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Our, let's see here, Jeremy would be next if we go by first name. Julie is next if we go by last name. So you two toss a coin and whoever speaks first.
Julia Douglas, 114 Spanish Oak Trail. Most of you probably know me. I've been around for quite some time. I've been in residential construction for 13 years. And prior to that, I was in law for 9 years. So I see both sides of kind of what we're dealing with as far as the legal side and the non-legal side, the actual building side. I also served as mayor for 2 years, and I was the sitting mayor when the comprehensive plan was passed. So I would love to be a part of making sure that those elements of that comprehensive plan get put into place. Would love to help contribute to the community in that way. Prior to that, I served as city council for 3 years, and then I was on planning and zoning for 1.5 years before that, where I served as the chair. Does anyone have any questions for me?
I'm good.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Julia. Jeremy?
Jeremy McCune, 1100 Osprey Court. That's in Nemo. I own the Green Pickle right down the street along with my wife, Ember. First foray into politics. I definitely want to thank the incumbent guys that have been serving. Really think I have a perspective right now in terms of a small business owner. I've worked in corporate America for 22 years before buying the Green Pickle, but for the last 3 years, I've seen a lot of change.
It kind of takes away your, break the podium.
I'm probably gonna get billed for that, right? So, seeing all the change that's occurring in Glen Rose right now, I'd like to help make sure that goes in the right direction as well, in one way or the other. My son also goes to the school here. He's a sophomore at Glen Rose High School. So we're pretty committed to the Glen Rose area, and just looking to be of service. Any questions? I'm sorry.
Questions?
Thank you.
Rex?
Yes, Rex Miller, and we live at 404 Paluxy Street. And first year on planning and zoning. So it was a fun learning curve. I've been in commercial construction and real estate since 1978. That's when I started doing this. I've done a lot of research on what makes small towns work, written 3 books on education that relate to the chemistry of small towns. Part of what motivates me is the mission and vision that we have here. So if the planning and zoning and the council would allow me to continue, I'd like to continue the work that we started and continue to work and get more embedded into the city and just help it become a great place.
All right. Any questions?
No, I'm glad to see all of them come forward for their service, and it's good. I've seen it when we didn't have people come forward. So
Yeah, I think every last person that has stepped up in this round has something to add.
Yeah.
To the commission, to the town.
Yep.
And I want to, whatever way this all goes, I want to thank you all for your past service, future service, desire to be of service. I guess the best way to do this is somebody make a nomination for one or two names and we'll vote per person.
Yeah, I think we've got some really good qualified people here, so it's really to say who's gonna do a better job over one or the other. You got some experienced people, some people that's been on here that are in the know of what's going on, so it's really a hard decision to say. I mean,
You are gonna have to make a
William,
decision.
William, that's why,
I want you to make the decision.
William, that's why they pay you the big bucks.
Yeah, right.
You're not gonna waffle on this one.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to do
Being
something.
very diplomatic.
Yes, Dennis.
Dennis Morthier on Mission Street. Is it in ordinance that y'all make a recommendation to?
Yes, it
Isn't
is.
that kind of biased?
That
The
we're
city,
making,
the board makes a
they're
recommendation?
not. We
We're
make,
not.
Oh,
they
they're not
don't.
going to.
we do.
We're not.
These three, but still, it's kind of,
We make a recommendation per the
that's
ordinance.
in code.
That is in code.
That says we do that.
Yeah,
It's recommendation.
it's recommendation. It
Besides.
doesn't mean that that's what happens. It just is a
Council-
I
recommendation.
know,
makes a
but it
decision.
seems sort of,
It, Dennis, I'm gonna
doesn't
tell
seem
you.
kosher.
Well,
I guess I need to get the ordinance changed.
I'm gonna say that it was something that, from a perspective of being able to talk through each person's backgrounds
We didn't
and
do that when I was on, that's something.
it was added.
Okay.
It was added.
I'm not against anybody up there, I'm just saying.
Yeah, no,
sort of
I understand completely.
pick among yourselves. So it's-
Well, again, all we're doing is making a recommendation of who we feel will best fit the group as it stands
I
today
understand.
with where everything is moving.
Understand.
And then city council has the final say.
Correct.
But what we have learned is that without giving city council an opinion, it can cause how do I say this?
Did you have that put into the ordinance?
I did not. It was put into the ordinance by a previous
Council.
previous council, but it was also suggested by a previous building official. So, no, it was not something that I put in. I'm in favor of us having an opinion. But our opinion is, worth a grain of salt. It means nothing.
I'm sure it means something or you wouldn't be doing.
In the end, we can
Would
sit
be
here and
yours.
say we have no preference and all four go to the city council and city council just picks. If that's where we land, that's where we land.
I wouldn't mind
Yes.
seeing all
Because I
four
was on
go.
council when that happened. The reason that happened is because the council would say, well, have they had any say of these people? Have they talked about
Right.
what they want? So then that became an ordinance.
Okay.
Thank you for that clarity.
I don't have any problem.
All right. I can sit here and go pros and cons.
Do you want to pick, or all four of these people are good people? I think any of them could do a good job. I mean, I wouldn't see any of them not being able to do this. So what would be wrong with sending them to the council? Is that something we should not do or what? I mean, we can pick here, but I think all these people are good candidates for the job.
That's a realistic question. Could you recommend all four? I'd have to go to Stan to find that out.
I think we have to provide our two.
It's
All
a
four go to
recommendation.
city council.
They go anyway. So
Right.
Stan would have to answer that question.
But I
You
think,
could do all four. I don't know if you could. That'd be a Stan question.
What's your thought, Larry?
City council's gonna do what they want to do anyhow, so.
But if you're making the recommendation, the others won't go, right? They're not recommended.
When's next city council?
Oh, okay, I see.
But, you know,
June
they
11th, I
have.
think.
Okay, so if, can we, in all seriousness here, all right, let's,
It'll slip down.
if we sit down and say, all right, what have we accomplished with these two?
Yes.
All right, we've gotten the tree ordinance passed, we've worked on the parking stuff, we've worked on the schedule of uses. Well, we worked on signs, but then signs got pulled back again. And so I'm not saying that any of these people wouldn't add value, but we're in the middle of some things
Yes.
that they have history of.
Hell yeah.
Now, that's a pro for keeping these two as our recommendation. Julia has vast experience with all the things that are in the comprehensive plan. And has background on how some of the past ordinance have kind of have gotten to where they were, and was very much a part of the vision of where the town wants to go. Or, you know, we all think the town as a collective wants to go. So she would also be a very valuable addition. Jeremy, and no offense, please, don't spit, out of those three is probably the fresh set of eyes, but probably has the least amount of background of everything that is the comprehensive plan, is the ordinances that we've been discussing in history that we know we need to change and go forward with. So if we had to prioritize an order, I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm tied on 1, 2, 3. I would say, no offense, Jeremy, but that would be the fourth choice. Again, a very valuable choice. But we have small business owners up here. So it's things that have already have in the composition of the commission. That's not to say that he doesn't bring extra value by he owns a restaurant in the square compared to an auto body or an auto part repair on Bernard to a service.
And I'll be involved either
company.
way, so I mean, aren't gonna hurt my feelings, I mean, I'll be.
Well, I mean, I'm just sitting here, it's,
So,
you know,
I think a lot of things she
I think there's a lot-
disadvantages are actually advantages that I bring,
yeah.
but that's besides the point.
Well, and that's what I said. I mean, it's hard to say one way or the other.
Well,
A good or
we're
bad.
trying to eliminate one, so.
No, I wasn't. I just said that if I had to prioritize,
I think we should eliminate two, but I don't, I think we should stick with the ordinance, but if you're looking to single one out, that seems kind of.
That's the interpretation.
well, these two aren't gonna make a decision.
Oh, well,
We know
let me
that.
explain
So-
this, because you didn't say this part.
Go ahead.
Rex can't vote for himself, so
Correct.
he has to abstain, but he can vote this way,
Okay.
and the other way around. So you can have a say on anybody but yourself.
But I have no problem with that. I just want the committee, if you have an ordinance, I think you should fulfill the ordinance.
I agree.
Split it in the middle.
I agree. It's, now we have to decide.
Right.
You know, I personally agree. Now we have to decide, and there's value in all four of you, so how do we decide?
You should consider a new ordinance to go into a closed session for that.
Yeah,
That could do.
That we
I
can.
don't think we get to do close.
that's not by law in the state of Texas allowed.
I hate closed sessions.
And I don't think we
Take
can
up
do
so
that
much
here,
time.
council, yes.
So the only thing I have a problem with, again, I just want to be clear, is just, if we're gonna do the ordinance, then let's do the ordinance and back us too.
Yeah,
And
you're
I'm not
still,
feeling hurt if it's not me, trust me, I
you'll still be there at council, and council can still select whoever they
It's
choose.
council.
These are just recommendations.
Yes, sir.
Is Troy still sitting outside?
I don't think so. Why?
Well, Rex brings up a good point.
What's that?
he's gonna be out of town at the next city council meeting, which if city council requires him being present in order to vote on him,
I'm not sure that that's the case. We'd have to.
That's
ask
why I
Stacy.
said.
We'd have to ask Stacy.
That's why I
I've seen
was-
that happen though. If they weren't there.
Right.
Judy,
Yeah,
Yes,
and,
but if they're
yeah.
not there, but if, it's different if they just didn't show up, and if they knew ahead of time that they weren't
Right.
going to be there, they handle that completely differently.
Correct.
Right, and they could always check in over the phone.
Well, and I say they did handle that differently, I had,
Right.
it's a completely different.
That's why I was, Troy would be the one that would change the mix of that nature less than Stacy, which is why I said if Troy was still here.
And I do believe, and we'll double check, make sure, Rex, I do believe you can phone in. Just play ET, phone home.
Yeah. Okay. Following the
so they
ordinance.
gotta say,
O-
they
Okay,
said they gotta say they can.
okay, following the ordinance. Everybody has to pick 2 people.
Everybody?
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna do, how about I just do it this way? Everybody in favor of Greg?
Go outside.
Yeah, they can't, but he can't vote for himself.
Yeah, so that's not gonna work unless they both abstain.
Yeah, he has to abstain for himself, yes.
Okay,
You didn't vote for him.
you're right, I haven't voted yet, because no matter how this ends, I'm the bad guy.
Can the rest of us excuse ourselves?
Yeah, you don't have more than welcome to.
Wait, you're gonna miss who wins.
Oh,
It's not a win or
that's
lose.
Don't you have
You'll be on the evening news.
Oh, you gotta
We'll see it in Facebook.
We'll see it on Facebook.
Thank y'all so much.
Good luck. I'm rooting for you, Julia.
Conundrum.
I mean, there has to be something for the incumbents, right? I mean, you guys have done a good job. You guys aren't, you can vote for the other, but you can't vote for
Yourself. right.
yourself.
Yeah, you have to abstain for yourself.
But
Yeah.
you can't vote for, they can't vote for 2 if one of the people wants to be themselves, so that automatically will skew
So
the
that
vote.
means. Well, how would that vote finish though, if you
Okay.
completed the vote in that order, under those rules? how would-
And those 2,
This is a
Maybe
neat
two
puzzle. This
people.
is quite a puzzle.
Write them
isn't it?
down, write them down.
Let's everybody write down.
Just write them down.
It's a conundrum.
Write down 2, and so that means I have to pick 2, but of course.
No, you don't necessarily have to pick 2, you just abstain.
Right.
What's that?
You abstain for yourself.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
We have, but there was clear cut reasons for the people that we picked in the past.
You know, I'm not sure William's not right, that you guys don't say one way or the other. If you want to squeeze out of it like William.
Does it say you
Thank you,
must,
Larry.
does it say you shall?
I'm just sticking up for you,
Yes.
brother.
But
Are
does
you
it
thank
say,
you?
does it say the recommendation
say
has
shall or
to
may?
be 2? Or does it say just make a
Wow.
recommendation?
I
And
don't
if you
think it says
recommend
either
that
or.
any of them are good candidates for it, then you've made your recommendation and you've done your.
You dump it on console.
You make one.
That's what William does all the time.
We try not to let him do that.
What y'all say? What are you doing?
Nothing.
They're bad now than you, William.
Can only count to 1, so, you know.
There's your list.
Okay, good.
Wellness chair.
I'm waiting.
She's waiting for.
Waiting on me.
Is that like waiting until the cows come home?
For the chicken to roost or?
So,
Now you have to put yours in there.
mine's written right there, so we're all.
You gotta get your motors on the other end.
Dennis, see what you started?
The council got
You know what,
they need to be on the
there's
hot seat,
there
not
have
y'all.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
get paid
This
for
puts y'all
that.
in a bad situation.
Yes, it does.
They should have never added that, in my
Oh,
opinion.
okay.
But that's just.
Thank you, Dennis. We're now moving on from that topic.
Well, maybe they're watching tonight.
All right.
Could be.
The consensus of the 3 is that Rex and Greg would be our number 1 and number 2 choice. But I think that the way we write this is that all 4 would be recommended. But if we have to choose, we're
Talking
going,
on council, just like William.
yeah, we're going with, if we have to choose, we're going with Rex and Greg. Simply, for my statement, simply because it's some continuity, it is, we've got open things that we still are working through. It's a tough decision, because I certainly feel that everybody would add value. And hey, you know,
You could always recommend adding 2
there's
more
2
members.
seats that are gonna be coming up in 6 months, so.
You could always say that we could add 2 more members.
And we
have
could go
7.
down that road too,
I
and suggest
think
that we
Troy
expand.
suggested that with historic.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
harder to
but
do with
let's
this many people when you get into PNC.
We're-
So there's 2, I will say this, whatever happens, there is 2 seats that again come up for renewal in the end of this year. So
2 or 3?
3.
Yeah.
3, all 3 of us.
Yeah.
So there's 3 seats that come up at the end of this year. So if for whatever reason city council goes and does their thing, then obviously everybody can come back and try again on the 3 seats. So that's where we're at. This is a hard one. All right. Having no further business before the commission, this meeting is adjourned at 6:16.
Okay.
You busy?
Oh,
Yeah, some house guests over there.
We did, yeah, we had 16.
Thank you for your time. You didn't have house guests, I had house guests.
Yeah, you had house